Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we are opening up a file that I think, honestly, it kind of haunts a lot of us.
Oh, yeah.
It's that, the persistent nagging gap between who we are right now and who we swore, maybe on New Year's Eve, maybe on a random Tuesday, that we would be by now.
The person we see in our head.
Exactly. We're talking about the architecture of our daily lives. We are talking about habits.
The invisible hand that shapes pretty much everything we do. It's a massive topic.
It is. And to tackle it, we are doing a comprehensive breakdown of Atomic Habits by James Clear.
A huge one. A modern classic, really.
It really is. Now, I want to be very clear right off the bat because I know our listeners, this isn't just another, rah-rah, wake up at 4 a.m. and grind kind of a self-help sermon. We are not doing that.
No. This is much more of a mechanical framework. It's about the nuts and bolts.
Yes, exactly. We're looking at the biology, the psychology, and frankly, the mathematics of how these tiny, tiny changes, things you wouldn't even notice in the moment, compound into absolutely massive results.
That's right. Our mission today is to move past that generic advice like, just be more disciplined.
Just try harder.
Right. We aren't looking for overnight success stories. In fact, the source material explicitly warns against that whole mindset. We're going to unpack the science of these 1% improvements.
And we're going to look at the difference between goals and systems.
Which sounds like just a semantic argument, but it's a fundamental worldview shift.
It really is. And we're going to explore how your habits actually shape your identity, not just, your schedule for the day.
And to understand the weight of this philosophy, you really have to start with the author himself, James Clear.
You do, because when you pick up a book on discipline and high performance, you usually assume the guy writing it was, born a Navy SEAL.
Right. Someone who came out of the womb making their bed with perfect hospital corners?
Exactly. You picture someone who has never hit the snooze button in their entire life and, drinks kale smoothies for fun.
Yeah, that's the stereotype.
But Clear's journey, it doesn't start with a gym routine or some big business exit. It starts with a near-death experience.
It does. It's a very dramatic, very visceral opening to the material. And it sets the stakes immediately. This wasn't some academic theory he cooked up in a lab or in a sociology department.
Yeah.
This was a survival mechanism. This was born out of trauma.
So let's set the scene properly because the details really, really matter here to understand where he's coming from. It's 2002.
Okay.
It's the final day of his sophomore year in high school. He's at a baseball game.
Right. So he's an athlete, a young kid.
Exactly. But here's the thing. He's not even up to bat. He's not in the play. He's just a bystander at this moment.
Oh, wow.
He's standing behind a classmate who is taking a practice swing. And this is it's a complete freak accident. The classmate takes a full hard swing and the bat slips out of his hands.
Oh, no.
And it flies through the air and it strikes him directly between the eyes.
Oh, directly between the eyes.
And we aren't talking about a graze or a bump. The material is incredibly graphic about this. He says the momentum of the bat was so significant that it literally crushed his nose into a distorted U-shape.
A U-shape. I'm wincing just hearing that. It's hard to even visualize.
It's horrific. The force of the blow sent the soft tissue of his brain slamming into the inside of the back of his skull.
And the scariest part, he says he has no memory of the impact itself.
The lights just went out.
Pretty much. He says when he opened his eyes, he just saw people staring at him, running over to help. He looks down, sees red spots on his clothes. A classmate actually takes off his own shirt to give to James to try and plug the bleeding.
Wow.
But here's the thing about shock. He doesn't realize how bad it is. He's just confused.
Well, yeah, his brain just smashed against his own skull. He's probably running on pure adrenaline and just total confusion.
Exactly. So the school nurse arrives, and she starts asking the standard concussion protocol questions. She asks, "What year is it?"
And remember, it's 2002.
James looks at her and says, 1998.
Oh, that's not good. He's lost 4 years. He thinks he's back in middle school.
Yeah. Then she asks who the president is. He says, Bill Clinton. It was George W. Bush.
Okay, so he's completely disoriented.
But then she asks a question that really drives home the severity of the trauma. She just asks for his mom's name.
And does he know it?
He stalls. He says 10 seconds pass. Just dead silence. He finally says, Patty. But he admits later that he sort of casually ignored the fact that it took him 10 full seconds to remember the name of the woman who raised him.
And that's when things really go south.
That's when his body finally gives up. He loses consciousness.
And this is where the story shifts from, bad high school injury to a genuine life-threatening crisis.
Absolutely. He's taken to the local hospital, but they take one look at him and realize they can't handle it. The swelling in his brain is escalating way too fast.
Oh, man.
He starts having seizures. He stops breathing entirely at one point. They have to intubate him and then airlift him, get a helicopter to a larger trauma center in Cincinnati.
Just imagine that. You're a high school kid, you're thinking about summer break, playing baseball, and just hours later, you are in a helicopter, in a coma, on a ventilator.
Yeah. He was placed in a medically induced coma to save his brain. And the recovery, I mean, this was not a wake up the next day and everything is fine kind of situation.
Yeah.
This is where the slow, painful grind begins. When he woke up, he couldn't smell anything. His sense of smell was just gone.
That's a classic sign of brain trauma.
It is. And there's this one detail in the book that really stuck with me. He tried to blow his nose to test his sense of smell, and because his eye socket was shattered in the accident.
Oh, no. I think I know where this is going.
His eyeball bulged out of the socket.
That is a gruesome, horrifying detail. But it highlights just how physically broken he was. He wasn't just hurt. He was, like, shattered.
Fragile, incredibly fragile. He had to have surgery to fix the facial fractures. He had double vision for weeks. He literally couldn't see straight. He had to go to physical therapy just to learn how to walk in a straight line again.
And it took 8 months before you could even drive a car.
And we have to remember this was a kid who lived and breathed baseball. His whole dream was to play professionally. So this isn't just a physical injury. It is a full-blown identity crisis.
It's a career ender. Or at least it must have felt that way.
It did. He gets back to the field a year later, but he's just not the same player. He gets cut from the varsity team. He's the only junior cut from the team.
Oh, that's humiliating for a high school athlete. To be the older kid sent down to play with the sophomores.
It is. He talks about crying in his car, just searching the radio for a song to make him feel better. It is a genuine rock bottom moment. But, and this is so key for what we're talking about today, this is the crucible. This is where the philosophy of atomic habits was forged.
How so? Because most people in that situation, they'd just quit. They'd say, well, I guess I'm not an athlete anymore. A new identity.
Right. But 2 years after the injury, he goes off to college at Denison University. And he has this realization. He looked at his life and realized he couldn't control the injury. He couldn't magically fix his brain overnight. He couldn't force the coach to put him on the team.
All the big stuff was out of his hands.
Exactly. But he could control his routine. He could control his environment.
This is the turning point. But he didn't try to become a superstar athlete on day one, right? He didn't just walk into the gym and try to bench press 300 pounds.
No, and that is the mistake most of us make. We have a crisis, so we try this massive, heroic overhaul. We try to change everything all at once.
Yeah.
He did the complete opposite. He started small. I mean, really, really small.
So give us the list. What does small look like for a guy who's literally rebuilding his life from the ground up?
Well, he focused on his sleep habits. While all his peers were staying up late playing video games, he made a rule for himself to go to bed early every night.
Simple. Doesn't require any special skill.
None. He focused on his environment. He made a habit of keeping his dorm room neat and tidy.
A clean room. It sounds so trivial. How does a clean room fix a broken baseball career?
It sounds trivial, doesn't it? But he says these minor improvements gave him a sense of control. In a life that felt completely chaotic, a made bed is a signal of order. It was a foothold.
Okay, that makes sense. A small sphere of influence.
And then he started lifting weights, not trying to be a bodybuilder, just showing up consistently. And over the years, he went from a featherweight 170 pounds to a lean, strong 200 pounds.
And the grades?
The grades followed the discipline. He started getting straight A's.
And here is where we see the power of compounding, which is really the engine of this entire book. Those small habits, sleep, tidiness, studying, lifting, they didn't pay off in a week.
Not at all. If you looked at him a month in, he just looked like any other student. But by the time he graduated,
A completely different person.
he was the top male athlete at the university. He was an ESPN academic All-American.
That's a huge deal.
Huge. And he was awarded the President's Medal, which is the highest academic honor at the school.
From a coma to the highest academic honor, that is one hell of an arc.
And he's humble about it in the book. He says, there was nothing legendary about my athletic career. I never played professionally. But he fulfilled his potential. He maxed out what he had to work with.
And that leads us right to the core thesis. He defines atomic habits in a very specific, very interesting way. It's not just a catchy title. It has this dual meaning.
Yeah, let's break that down. Why atomic?
Go for it.
Well, first, you have to think of the word atomic in terms of its size. An atom is an extremely small amount of a thing, right? It's the single, irreducible unit of a larger system.
The building block.
Exactly. Just like an atom is the building block of all matter, an atomic habit is the building block of your results. It's tiny.
Okay, so it's small. It's manageable. But atoms are also known for something else entirely.
And that's the second meaning. Power, the source of immense energy, atomic energy. So an atomic habit is a small practice that is also the source of incredible power and compound growth.
I love that. Small, but mighty. And that really brings us to the first major concept we need to unpack today. The aggregation of marginal gains.
This is foundational. If you take nothing else away from this deep dive today, really get this concept. And Clear illustrates it with one of my favorite stories in all of sports history.
The story of British cycling.
Yes.
Oh, this story is legendary. It's almost become like a parable in the business world.
Yeah.
But for anyone who hasn't heard it, let's set the scene. Before 2003, British cycling was not good.
Not good is being incredibly generous. They were the laughingstock of the cycling world. Mediocre for about 100 years.
100 years.
Since 1908, British riders had won just a single gold medal at the Olympic Games. One. In an entire century.
And the Tour de France, the biggest race in the world.
Nothing. No British cyclist had ever won it in 110 years.
It was so bad that I read one of the top bike manufacturers in Europe actually refused to sell bikes to the British team.
They did. They were afraid it would hurt their sales if other professionals saw the Brits using their gear. They didn't want the brand association.
That is rock bottom. Imagine trying to buy equipment for your job and the company says, no thanks, you're bad for business.
It's a total PR nightmare. But then, in 2003, everything changes. They hire a new performance director named Dave Brailsford, and Brailsford was different.
He wasn't a shout louder kind of coach.
No, not at all. Most coaches come in and say, we need to train harder, we need more grit, we need to suffer more. Brailsford came in with a philosophy he called the aggregation of marginal gains.
The aggregation of marginal gains. It sounds like a doctoral thesis or something from a boring economics textbook.
It really does.
What does it actually mean in practice?
The principle is super simple, but the execution is obsessive. He believed that if you break down everything that goes into riding a bike, literally everything, and then improve every single one of those elements by just 1%, the total increase when you put them all back together is significant.
So it started with the obvious stuff, I assume. Lighter bikes, better aerodynamics.
They did. That's the low-hanging fruit.
Yeah.
They redesigned bike seats for better comfort. They rubbed alcohol on the tires for better grip. They used electrically heated overshorts to maintain optimal muscle temperature while riding.
Okay, heated shorts, that's pretty clever. But that's still, cycling stuff. Where Brailsford really leaned into this philosophy was with the adjustments that nobody else was even thinking about.
The weird stuff.
The weird stuff.
The weird stuff is where the magic happens. Because everyone is optimizing the bike, Brailsford optimized the human.
Okay, give me the examples. I want to hear how granular this got.
Okay. They tested different types of massage gels to see which one led to the fastest muscle recovery. Not just, is massage good, but which specific gel at which specific viscosity gives us that 1% edge.
That is unbelievably granular.
They hired a surgeon, to teach the riders the proper way to wash their hands.
To avoid getting a cold.
Exactly. I mean, think about it. If you're an elite athlete, catching a common cold means you miss 3 or 4 days of crucial training. That's a performance step. If you wash your hands perfectly, you stay healthy.
That's a marginal gain. It makes total sense, but who thinks of that?
It's brilliant. They also determined the exact type of pillow and mattress that led to the best night's sleep for each individual rider. And then, this is the kicker, they hauled those specific pillows and mattresses to every single hotel they stayed at during competitions.
So while other teams are sleeping on whatever lumpy generic hotel mattress they get, the British team is sleeping in their own optimized comfort bubble.
1% better sleep, 1% better recovery, every single night.
And my personal favorite detail from this whole story, the truck.
The white truck. Oh, yeah. They painted the inside of the team truck, the one that housed the bikes in the mechanics area, purely white.
Why white? Was it just an aesthetic choice?
No, it was completely functional. They painted it white so they could spot tiny little specks of dust. Dust that would normally slip by unnoticed in a dark truck, but could get into the gears and degrade the performance of the finely tuned bikes.
That is obsessive. It's bordering on neurotic, honestly. But the question is, did it work? Because washing your hands a little better doesn't seem like the thing that wins you a Tour de France.
It doesn't on its own. That's the point. 1% is invisible. But when you aggregate it, the results were staggering.
Okay, lay it on me.
Just 5 years after Brailsford took over at the 2008 Beijing Olympics, the British team won 60% of the gold medals available in cycling.
60%.
Oh.
That's not just winning, that is total domination.
And 4 years later in London, they set 9 Olympic records and 7 world records.
Wow.
And the Tour de France. That race they hadn't won in 110 years. Bradley Wiggins became the first British cyclist to win it, and then his teammate Chris Froome won it, and won it again. In a 6-year span, they won 5 Tour de France victories.
From no one even wanting to sell them bikes to 5 Tour de France wins, that is the power of marginal gains.
It is, and Clear breaks down the math of this, which I think is really important for our listeners to visualize. Because when we say 1% better, it sounds nice, but our brains are really bad at exponential math. We think linearly.
Yeah, let's do the math, because 1% doesn't feel like much. If I get 1% better at writing today, I don't feel like a better writer. If I save 1% more money this month, I don't feel rich.
Right. It's imperceptible. But look at it over a year. If you get 1% better each day for 1 year, you end up 37 times better by the time you're done.
37 times better.
Yeah, the math is 1.01 to the power of 365, which comes out at 37.78. You're basically a different person.
But the inverse is also true.
Uh-huh.
And this is the real danger zone.
This is where people get trapped and don't even realize it. If you get 1% worse every day for a year, that's 0.99 to the power of 365, you decline nearly down to 0. You end up at 0.03.
That is terrifying. It really shows that there is no neutral ground.
Yeah.
You're either compounding up or you're compounding down. There's no coasting.
Exactly. And this brings us to a concept Clear introduces called lagging measures. This is such a crucial mental shift for anyone feeling frustrated with their lack of progress.
Okay, unpack lagging measure. It sounds like an economics term. What does that mean for me looking at my bank account or my waistline right now?
It means that what you see right now is the result of what you did in the past. Your net worth today is a lagging measure of your financial habits from 6 months ago, or maybe even 6 years ago.
Okay.
Your rate today is a lagging measure of your eating habits from the last few months. Your knowledge is a lagging measure of your learning habits. The clutter in your house is a lagging measure of your cleaning habits.
So if I'm looking at a messy desk, I'm not seeing today. I'm seeing the result of the last 2 weeks.
You are seeing the evidence of past habits. You get what you repeat. And this is why trying to fix the outcome without fixing the underlying habit is so futile. It's like swiping a new credit card to pay off an old credit card bill.
You're just treating the symptom. You're not curing the disease.
Right. If you have a cluttered house and you spend all day Sunday cleaning it, you have a clean house. Outcome achieved. But if your habit is to drop your coat on the floor and leave your mail on the counter every day, the clutter is a lagging measure that will return.
Clear uses a really great airplane analogy here that I think is helpful for visualizing this whole trajectory idea.
Yes. So imagine you are a pilot flying a plane from Los Angeles to New York City.
Oh.
If the pilot, leaving LAX, adjusts the heading just 3.5 degrees south.
Which is tiny. You wouldn't even notice that on the runway. The nose of the plane moves, what, a few feet?
A few feet, exactly. It's an imperceptible change at takeoff. But you magnify that tiny change across the entire United States, across thousands of miles. You don't land in New York.
Where do you land?
You land in Washington, D.C. You end up hundreds of miles away from your intended destination.
And that slight change, that 3.5 degrees, that's the atomic habit.
That's it. A slight change in your daily habits guides your life to a very different destination. Success isn't this once-in-a-lifetime transformation. It's the product of daily habits consistently applied over time.
So we've established that habits compound. But Clear makes a point that I think is often overlooked, and it's a really important one. Compound interest works both ways. It's a double-edged sword.
It absolutely is. And understanding this explains why bad habits are so incredibly hard to break and why good habits can feel so hard to build. Let's look at the positive compounding first. Clear gives 3 examples: productivity, knowledge, and relationships.
Okay, productivity. How does that compound? Because sometimes it feels like if I just do more work, I just get more work to do.
It's not about working more, it's about working smarter through systems. If you automate one small task or you become slightly more efficient at a routine task, you free up brain power for other things. Accomplishing one extra task a day doesn't seem like much, but over a whole career, It's massive.
Yeah.
It's the difference between the employee who's always drowning and the one who seems to effortlessly handle everything because they've systemized all the basics.
And knowledge. I think we all intuitively get this one, but break it down.
Clear quotes Warren Buffett here, who says, that's how knowledge works. It builds up like compound interests. Learning one new idea today won't make you a genius tomorrow. But reading a book opens up new ways of thinking. Then you read another book, and the ideas start to connect to the first one. The synthesis of those ideas is exponential.
It's like building a lattice work in your mind.
Mm-hmm.
The more you know, the easier it is to learn new things because you have more hooks to hang the new information on.
Precisely. And then there's relationships. This is a nice one. People reflect your behavior back to you. If you make a habit of being slightly nicer, slightly more helpful in each interaction, that compounds over time into this incredible network of strong connections. It's not one big favor, it's 1,000 small kindnesses.
But then there's the dark side, negative compounding.
Yeah.
This is where we need to be really, really careful.
Yes. Stress is the big one here. Think about a single traffic jam. It's annoying, but it's not going to kill you. Think about one deadline at work. It's manageable. But when these things persist and compound, when you have the traffic and the deadline and the financial worry and the parenting stress day after day,
And it crushes you.
it crushes you. It leads to high blood pressure. It leads to burnout. The compounding effect of chronic stress is a real physiological thing.
And what about negative thoughts? This one feels so insidious.
It is. The more you think of yourself as worthless or stupid or lazy, the more you condition yourself to interpret life through that lens. It becomes a thought loop. You get trapped. Every time you make a small mistake and say to yourself, ugh, I'm so stupid, you are casting a vote for that identity. You are compounding that belief.
Clear also mentioned outrage as a negative compounder. And I found this really relevant to the world we live in now, with social media and the 24-hour news cycle.
Absolutely. He notes that riots, protests, and mass movements are rarely the result of a single event. It looks like that from the outside, right? There was one spark. But usually it's a long, long series of microaggressions and daily aggravations that have been multiplying under the surface until one event finally tips the scales.
It's the straw that breaks the camel's back,
Uh-huh.
which actually leads us perfectly into the next big section, the plateau of latent potential.
Yes.
Because if we're doing all this work, if we're making these small 1% improvements, why don't we see the results immediately? Why does it feel like nothing is happening?
This is where most people quit. This is the danger zone. Clear calls it the valley of disappointment. And to explain it, he asks us to visualize an ice cube.
Okay, I'm picturing an ice cube. It's sitting on a table in a really cold room.
Right. The room is 25 degrees Fahrenheit. You can see your breath. And slowly, you start to heat the room up. 26 degrees, 27 degrees, 28.
And if you're looking at the ice cube, absolutely nothing is happening. It is still just a solid block of ice.
Exactly. 29 degrees, 30, 31. Still nothing. To an outside observer, no progress has been made whatsoever. But then you hit 32 degrees, and the ice begins to melt.
The breakthrough moment.
Right. So here's the question. Was all the energy you used to heat the room from 25 to 31 degrees wasted?
It feels like it was wasted because we didn't see anything change. But obviously it wasn't. If you hadn't done the work to get to 31, getting to 32 wouldn't matter at all.
Correct. The work wasn't wasted, it was stored. That 1 degree shift from 31 to 32 unlocked all the change, but it was all the previous work that made it possible.
That is the plateau of latent potential.
Yes. We expect progress to be linear. We think, I put in 50% effort, I should get 50% of the results. But reality is often like that ice cube. The results are delayed.
This is why people stop going to the gym in February. They worked out all of January, they don't look like The Rock yet, and they throw their hands up and say, this isn't working.
Exactly. They are in the valley of disappointment. They haven't crossed the plateau yet. They are at 31 degrees and they think they are failing, but they're actually just on the verge of a breakthrough. And Clear points out that this pattern is everywhere in nature.
Give us another example.
Bamboo. Chinese
Okay.
bamboo. If you plant it for the first 5 years, you see almost nothing. It barely breaks the surface of the soil.
5 years. You would just assume it's dead. You'd dig it up.
You would, but it's not dead. It's building a massive, complex root system underground. It's preparing the foundation. And then in the 5th year, once those roots are established, it shoots up 90 feet in just 6 weeks.
90 feet in 6 weeks. Imagine if you were the farmer and you gave up in year 4 because nothing was happening.
You'd be walking away right before the explosion of growth. It reminds me of the quote that Clear shares from the San Antonio Spurs locker room. It's by a guy named Jacob Riis, the social reformer.
Oh, I love this quote. They have it hung up there for the players to see every single day.
They do. It says, "When nothing seems to help, I go and look at a stonecutter hammering away at his rock, perhaps 100 times without as much as a crack showing in it. Yet at the 101st blow, it will split in two. And I know it was not that last blow that did it, but all that had gone before."
All that had gone before. That is the essence of Atomic Habits right there. It's the 100 blows that didn't show a crack.
It's the stored energy. And just recognizing this pattern helps you stay the course when the lagging measures haven't caught up to your efforts yet.
Okay, now, this brings us to a very controversial point in the book. Probably the most provocative thing that Clear says, and I'm going to push back on this a little bit, because it goes against everything that, like, corporate America teaches us.
I know exactly what you're going to say. Forget about goals.
Yes. Forget about goals. Focus on systems instead.
It sounds like heresy, doesn't it?
It sounds insane. We are trained from birth to set goals. SMART goals, quarterly goals, 5-year plans. If I go to my boss and say, hey, I have no goals for this quarter, only systems, I might get fired. How can you possibly succeed without a goal?
Well, he clarifies a bit. He isn't saying goals are totally useless. He's saying they're vastly overrated as the driver of progress. And he credits Scott Adams, the creator of Dilbert, for this distinction.
So define the difference for us. What is a goal versus a system?
Goals are about the results you want to achieve. Systems are about the processes that lead to those results.
Okay, give us some examples. A coach, an entrepreneur, a musician.
Sure. If you're a basketball coach, your goal is to win the championship. Your system is the way you recruit players, manage your assistant coaches, and conduct practice every day. If you're a musician, your goal is to play a new piece. Your system is how often you practice, how you break down the music, and how you handle the difficult measures.
Okay, I get the distinction. But surely the goal is important to give you direction, to point you somewhere.
For direction, yes. But Clear poses a really provocative question here. He asks, if you completely ignored your goals and focused only on your system, would you still succeed?
That's a hypothetical.
For example, if that basketball coach ignored the championship, never looked at the trophy, never talked about the title, and just focused obsessively on running the best possible practice every single day, would they still win?
And his answer is yes.
His answer is yes. In fact, Bill Walsh, the legendary NFL coach, famously said, "The score takes care of itself." If you execute the system perfectly, the goal happens almost as a byproduct.
So why are goals bad? Or maybe not bad, but problematic. Clears lists 4 specific problems with being too goal-oriented.
Right. Problem number 1, winners and losers have the same goals.
This is that survivorship bias thing we see everywhere.
Exactly. We look at the Olympic gold medalists and we say, wow, they won because they had a powerful goal to win gold. But every single athlete at the Olympics had the goal to win gold. The guy who finished dead last wanted to win just as badly.
That's such a good point. Nobody goes to the Olympics with a goal of coming in 8th place.
So if the winners and the losers have the exact same goal, the goal cannot be the thing that differentiates them. It has to be the system. It has to be the daily training, the nutrition, the sleep, the atomic habits that they followed.
We attribute success to the ambition, but the ambition is universal.
Yeah,
The system is what's rare.
precisely. Okay, problem number 2. Achieving a goal is only a momentary change.
This goes right back to the clean room example.
Exactly. If you have a messy room and you set a goal to clean it, and you summon all your energy and you clean it, great. You now have a clean room. Goal achieved. But if you haven't changed the pack rat habits that made it messy in the first place, it's just going to get messy again in a week.
You treat it a symptom, not the cause. You're just fighting the same fire over and over.
You're chasing the same outcome because you never changed the system behind it. As Clear says, fix the inputs and the outputs will fix themselves.
Okay, problem number 3 involves happiness. This one resonates with me personally. I think we all fall into this trap.
Yeah, it's the idea that goals restrict your happiness. The implicit assumption behind any goal is, once I reach my goal, then I'll be happy.
The I'll be happy when
Yep.
trap. I'll be happy when I lose 10 pounds. I'll be happy when I get the promotion. I'll be happy when I finally buy the house.
It creates this either-or conflict for your life. Either you achieve the goal and you're a success, or you fail and you're a disappointment. You're boxing yourself into this very narrow version of happiness. You're basically putting your life on hold until you hit some arbitrary milestone.
But with a systems first mentality.
You get to be satisfied Anytime your system is running, if your system is, I write for 15 minutes every day, then every single day you write, you are successful. You get that little dopamine hit daily, not just once at the end of a long, hard year.
And finally, problem number 4. Goals are at odds with long-term progress.
This is the yo-yo effect. Think about runners. So many people work incredibly hard for months to run a marathon. They train, they eat right, they're super disciplined, but as soon as they cross that finish line,
They stop. The goal is gone.
they stop training. The race is no longer there to motivate them. And all that hard-won progress is lost because the goal was the only thing pushing them forward.
I see this with wedding diets all the time. People will starve themselves to look good for one specific day and then gain all the weight back and more on the honeymoon.
Exactly. The goal is to win the game. The system is to continue playing the game. True long-term thinking is goalless thinking. It's not about any single accomplishment. It's about the cycle of endless refinement and continuous improvement.
This leads to one of the best lines in the entire book, I think. You do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems.
It's such a profound statement. We think our big ambitions will carry us through, but under stress, when things get hard, we always revert to our training. We revert to our systems.
So we've talked about the math of 1%. We've talked about compound interest. We've covered systems over goals. But there is one more layer to this onion. And Clear literally calls it the onion.
The 3 layers of behavior change. This is where we get into the deep psychology of why we do what we do. And this is the part that explains why so many New Year's resolutions are dead by January 15th.
So imagine an onion, 3 layers. Walk us through them from the outside in.
Okay. The outer layer is your outcomes. This is what you get. Losing weight, writing a book, winning a championship. Most goals are set at this level. This is the what?
And then the middle layer.
The middle layer is your process. This is what you do. These are your habits and your systems. Going to the gym, decluttering your desk, meditating every morning. This is the how.
And the center, the core of the onion.
The inner layer is your identity. This is what you believe. It's your worldview, your self-image, your judgments about yourself and others. This is the who.
And Clear's big argument is that most of us try to change in the wrong direction.
We do. We start from the outside and try to work our way in. We say, I want to be skinny. That's an outcome. So I will stick to this diet. That's a process. But we never address our identity. We never change the underlying belief that we are, at our core, someone who loves junk food and hates to exercise.
So we're essentially fighting against ourselves. We're in a civil war.
Exactly. You are trying to perform a behavior that fundamentally contradicts your identity. And it's like trying to hold a beach ball underwater. You can do it for a little while with a lot of effort, but eventually your arms get tired and that ball is going to pop right back up to the surface.
He gives a great, really simple example of 2 people refusing a cigarette to illustrate this shift.
Yes. So imagine 2 people, both are trying to quit smoking. You offer a cigarette to the first person. They say, no thanks, I'm trying to quit.
Sounds reasonable. That's what most people would say.
It does. But think about what they're actually saying with those words. They're saying, I am a smoker who is currently trying to be something else. They still identify as a smoker. They're just a smoker who is resisting.
Okay. And the second person?
You offer a cigarette to the second person and they say, no thanks, I'm not a smoker.
It's such a small difference in words, but a huge difference in meaning.
It's a huge difference. I'm not a smoker signals a fundamental shift in identity. Smoking is part of their former life. It's not part of their current one. They aren't resisting temptation. They were just acting in alignment with who they believe they are.
It's the difference between doing and being.
Exactly. Your beliefs drive your actions. The ultimate form of intrinsic motivation is when a habit becomes part of your identity. It's one thing to say, I'm the type of person who wants this. It is a completely different thing to say, I'm the type of person who is this.
So the goal isn't to read a book.
The goal is to become a reader.
The goal isn't to run a marathon.
The goal is to become a runner.
The goal isn't to learn an instrument.
The goal is to become a musician. Once you adopt that identity, the habit becomes easy. It's no longer a chore. You're just acting like the person you already believe you are.
It takes the willpower out of it. You don't have to force yourself to do something that contradicts who you are. You're just being you.
Exactly. If you believe you are a healthy person, you just ask yourself, what would a healthy person do in this situation? And then you just do that. It's simple.
That is such a powerful shift. It's not about what you achieve. It's about who you become.
That's where the true permanence lies.
This has been an incredible deep dive. We've covered so much ground, from broken noses and baseball to white trucks and the philosophy of identity. Let's just recap the key takeaways before we let our listeners go, just to lock this all in.
Sure. Let's hit the high notes. First, we learn from James Clear's own story that small, simple changes give you a sense of control when your life feels completely chaotic. You don't need a massive overhaul, you just need a small win.
Second, that aggregation of marginal gains. The 1% improvements, like the British cycling team. It doesn't look like much today, but you have to trust the math. 1% better every day makes you 37 times better in a year.
Third, patience. You have to survive the valley of disappointment. You have to be willing to heat that ice cube from 25 to 32 degrees before you see the melt. Don't quit at 31 degrees.
Fourth, systems over goals. Remember, winners and losers have the same goals. It's the system that makes the winner. You will fall to the level of your systems, so build a good one.
And finally, and maybe most importantly, true change is identity change. You have to focus on who you want to become, not just what you want to achieve. Stop trying to do the thing. Start being the person.
Now, before we sign off, we always like to leave you with a final provocative thought, something to chew on as you go about your week.
I want you to reflect on that idea of lagging measures again. I want you to look around your life right now. Look at your bank account. Look at your physical health. Look at your relationships. Look at the state of your knowledge.
It can be a little confronting to do that, honestly.
It is. But remember, all of those things are lagging measures of your past habits. They are effectively history. You cannot change them in this moment. They're just the score from the last game.
So if you want to predict your future,
Don't look at your current results. Look at your current trajectory. Ask yourself this one simple question. If I keep doing exactly what I did today, not what I plan to do tomorrow, but what I actually did today for the next 10 years, will I like who I become?
and if the answer is no, you need to adjust the trajectory, even just by 1%. Because remember that airplane, 3.5 degrees is the difference between New York City and Washington, D.C.
That's the thought.
That is a thought to carry into the week. Adjust that trajectory, build those systems, become the person you want to be.
Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive. We'll see you next time.
Take care.